Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for our midday devotional. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, the local minister at the Prince George's Church of Christ, located at 7800 Central Avenue here in Landover, Maryland. I hope that your class today will just kind of encourage you. I am sort of talking hesitantly because there's a second slide that I really wanted to display for you today. And I just hope, trust, and pray that I'm able to share that with you. Uh, if I am not able to share that slide with you, I just want you to know that there's some information that I want to talk about that deals with bullying and the impact that bullying has on not just Christians, but the impact that bullying can have on the health of individuals. Uh, Bullies talk a lot. And when the lights are on and they are in the limelight, bullies have a tendency of trying to steal the show. But in the midst of this COVID 19 pandemic that we're in, I want to share with you some information from Forbes magazine about how bullies really operate. And it's really a sad commentary on how they try to steal the show until the show is no longer popular. Uh, in a May 28th, 2020, this year, publication of Forbes magazine, before COVID, problems already existed in the workplace, socially. Families were already burning out. Stress and even anxiety were at a much more manageable level, but it was already in existence. Uh, According to George Early, who is a professor of disaster impact on mental health at Johns Hopkins, this pandemic that we're in is packed with psychological unknowns. And for sure, there are many more disasters to come. Uh, and it doesn't matter whether we get a vaccine next week or December or January. Uh, the predictability of disasters, they are already in the pipeline. And I think that's important for us to understand even today. There are 8 to 10 areas that this COVID 19 are going to impact, has impact, is impacting in the lives of people of these United States. And believe it or not, the impact that the COVID 19 pandemic is having on us in this country is also going to have some more global, uh, expansive impacts on the world around us. You say, well, Dr. McClure, what does that have to do with the bully? It has everything to do with the bully. Because if the bully had handled his business as president of these United States, then the pandemic, which is causing the disaster, would have been mitigated. So let's talk about these areas that the pandemic are going to impact, is impacted, uh, and will impact for years to come, simply because a boisterous, loud talking, suck the oxygen out of the air person did not do his job as president of the United States. The economy. The economy stresses about 70% now. So the stressors that this country is experiencing right now is about 70% compared to typically about 46%, whether we talk about in families, you talk about CEOs of companies, you talk about people who work for companies. Typically, there's a 45% stress level, according to the American Psychological Association. But the economic stress now is 70%. You know why? Because of the uncertainty of what is going to happen. Thanksgiving is coming up, Christmas is coming up, and the economic side of that is, oh, are we going to go Thanksgiving shopping, buying turkeys, buying the side items, uh, traveling? All of that's going to be impacted. Whereas if the person at the top, the bully, had done his job, then this is the time of the year where companies basically turn from red to black. Meaning, when we talk about Black Friday, do you really know what that means? Black Friday is looked forward to in the business world, in the in the retail world, as the weekend, the Friday after Thanksgiving, and moving forward from the Friday after Thanksgiving to the end of the year, that is profit season for retailers. What will that look like this year? There are stores that have literally gone out of business. Uh, is it Neiman Marcus that's filed for bankruptcy? That's phenomenal. And there are so many other smaller stores that opened with optimism around Thanksgiving last year, but by the summer, they had to shutter their doors. So the economy stressors have escalated. The government response stressors are 67% due to almost no direction at the top. So there's stress within the government. You know why? The career government workers can't do their job as efficiently, as as professionally as they know they can, because their jobs have now been slowed down, because the appointees by this president, the appointees are taking their directions not from the rank and file employees, but from the person who appointed them. And it's impacting even the government. We look at signs of depression and anxiety. Uh, you're looking at 33% of the population is now showing signs of depression, anxiety, and is found 55% of the time due to financial difficulties. Now, you say, well, what's the big deal? Prior to this global pandemic that is out of control, these people, this 33%, basically did not experience this type depression or anxiety because of finances, because everything was lined up. When you look at the airline industry, it is basically shut down. If you went out to National Airport, BWI Airport, or Dulles International, remember all of the shops that are in the airports? Well, those shops are not making money because the traffic in the airport terminals are non-existent. Remember the rental car industry around airports? Remember the hotel industries? Because business travel, entertainment, all of these areas are experiencing financial difficulty because the person at the top did not do the leadership thing of leading this country out of this pandemic. Only about 50% of employees are comfortable discussing the mental health impact uh, by being impacted by this COVID 19. And you know why? Because when you look at the employees and the mental health impact, one of the fears of discussing it is I might lose my job. The ones who are still working, well, they may think something's wrong with me. They may think that I'm incapable of actually being able to perform the job in the way that I normally do. I can't tell them about the stress I'm under. I can't share with them the complications of now I've got to supervise my children. I've got to manage everything from home. Do you know working from home is a blessing and a curse? On one hand, the commute has been minimized, but with many people that I've talked to that are working from home, the work demand is more intense. They don't get the breaks they used to get because they don't have the office interference anymore. They don't have the people coming to their office or to their cubicle uh, talking for 10, 15, sometime an hour. But they are constantly now doing the work. And they're doing the work from the time they log in, which may be 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, until 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And yet they cannot talk about the potential of burnout, the anxiety, uh, especially to those in HR. They, for fear that maybe they think I'm not up to the job. So let me just suck it up and let me keep being pressured and stressed throughout this process. About 20% of the population is experiencing some type of physical reaction just from thinking about this pandemic, such as nervousness or sleep disruption. Now, yesterday in Prince George's County, Maryland, Montgomery County, and some of the other surrounding jurisdictions, the preventatives have been escalated. For instance, as a church, as of 5 p.m. on Sunday, this coming Sunday, we must scale back to only 10 people maximum being inside this building if we're going to have worship. That's a major scale back. And yet, when we talk about the scale back, you can't talk about that unless you talk about the escalation of the number of people who have contracted the coronavirus. Well, you can't talk about the escalation of the contraction of the virus unless you talk about the death rate going up. So, what happens with that? People are going to have physical in their body reactions. I heard a report this morning that between now and the end of the year, we may experience over 100,000 more deaths in the United States. You can't tell me that doesn't impact a person's psyche. I mean, I am looking forward I am looking forward to being in glory with the Lord. I am. But not for Thanksgiving, not for Christmas of 2020. No. But with this pandemic, that thought goes through our mind. Am I going to contract the virus? If I do, will it kill me? Well, does that mean that I can't go to the grocery store? Does that mean that I can't run down to CVS? Does that mean that I can't go to a carry out and pick up something to come back to the house? See, all of those type thoughts are going through people's minds simply because the pandemic is still vibrant. And you may notice that the majority of the United States of America, 50 contingent states, have now turned red because the virus is escalating. So that impacts the psyche of people. When people are laid off for about 6 months, uh, mental health is greatly impacted. Uh, you get unemployment for 5, 6 months and you say, well, I've got that buffer. But when people are laid off perpetually over a year, they're more likely to require treatment for depression and higher anxiety. You've got to look at how big this thing is. People are losing their jobs the longer this pandemic lasts. And the pandemic has stretched out simply because the person at the top, the 45th president of these United States, chose not to do his job. But he bragged about how well the country would be managed. And he bragged about how much this country would be winning. You remember during his campaign, we're going to be so much bigger winners. We're going to win so much that you're going to say, stop, I'm tired. I'm tired of winning. That's bully talk. That's nonsense. And now he's nowhere to be found because he's been revealed for who he is. And I'm here to tell you, people, we pray for one another. We pray for this country. We pray for this president. But we must call it like we see it. He has been a bully. He's been intimidating to everybody that didn't jump through the hoops the way he said jump. And he has caused this country to be in a perpetual state of disarray because of his incompetence. I've had loved ones who've been suffering financially from this. I have loved ones who have died from this. I have loved ones who are sick and recovering from this. I have family and friends who are somewhat anxious, depressed, because they don't know how this is going to end for them. Are they going to lose their jobs? Are they going to lose their homes? All types of chaos simply because a bully was handling the matter. Long-term PTSD consequences from the pandemic can last up to 10 years following this pandemic. It may take a decade for people to calm down, to settle down inside after this pandemic abates. Once the vaccines come out, people are still going to walk around with a little bit of anxiety when they see a person without a mask. When a person invades our personal space, you're going to see the trauma go back up. When you go out to eat, there are going to be many people that are reluctant to go into a restaurant and say, I've got reservations tonight. I miss going out to eat. And I will assure you that even myself will be a little bit dealing with that PTSD when it comes time within the next 2 or 3 months or 4 months or 5 months to go to a restaurant to sit down and eat. That's just part of the recovery process. The impact on young adults in times of disasters seem to be high. I mean, they come across as strong and daring and all of that, but 33% of adults ages 18 to 29 are falling within this high distress group compared to only about 15% of the adults 65 and older. Have you wondered why? See, you're dealing with young men and young ladies who are venturing off to college and they can't even go and have campus life. They can't interact. They can't experience the football homecomings, the basketball games, the sororities, the fraternities, the social life, the good social life. And I know I'm talking to an audience where all of the children practice good social life. They don't go to the drinking parties and the strip. We're talking to an audience that do have children that do good social life, just like my children always practiced good social life when they were off in college. But these 18 to 29-year-olds, that's been taken away from them. The job market is not as fluid now. They may be able to land a job, but it may not be the job of their dream. It may not be the job of their degree. So what happens is it causes a little bit of internal distress. In fact, it causes a lot of internal distress. In terms of the money power, the earning power, they're going to be able to make some money now, but they're saying promotions and me being able to have this entry-level job at company A, I can't jump ship 6 months from now or 1 year from now and go to the company B or C because they're not hiring either. So it creates more anxiety and more stress in that 18 to 29-year-old than it does people my age and some of the older listeners' age because, at the end of the day, we're not looking. At the end of the day, we're trying to figure out what day of the month are they going to deposit my retirement money. But that 18 to 29-year-olds, they are just getting started. And we have only to thank for this chaos, the bully in the White House. We may not want to call it like we see it, but that's the reality of it. Let me close by inviting you to take a look at a biblical story of a bully coward. He was an absolute bully and he was an absolute coward when it came to things that matter. In 1 Samuel chapter 17, verses 4 through 11, you can read the whole story. It's about Saul. Saul was a big man himself. Saul was a boisterous man. Saul could intimidate you. Saul would try to kill his own son. So he moved through life by intimidating. His presence demanded attention. But then one day there was a giant named Goliath, a Philistine champion from Gath. He came out of the Philistines' ranks to face the forces of Israel. Now, who's the king of Israel? It's Saul. but he was over 9 feet tall. He was bigger than Saul. He was more intimidating than Saul. The COVID-19 virus is bigger than 45. The COVID-19 virus is more intimidating than 45. Look at verse number 8. Goliath stood and shouted and taunted across the Israelites. Why are you all coming out to fight? He called. I am the Philistine champion, but you are only the servants of Saul. Choose one man to come down here and fight me. Saul is nowhere to be found. And Goliath is talking trash and ready to back it up. We've got a coronavirus that is standing tall. And we haven't had a voice to support the voices that were trying to fight it. This current president wouldn't even support the professionals at NIH, at CDC, at the World Health Organization, because he was so cowardly and so insecure that he was afraid they would upstage him. Look at verse 11. Goliath said, I defy the armies of God today. Send me a man that will fight me. Now, look at verse 11. When Saul and the Israelites heard this, they were terrified and deeply shook up. Saul is the intimidator. Saul is the bully. Saul is the king. Saul is the leader. But when Goliath showed up, it scared the living daylights out of him. COVID-19 showed up. And our current president had no clue of what to do against a real enemy. Picking on other people, but they're not the enemy. Talking trash to his servants, but they're not the enemy. Intimidating women, but they're not the enemy. Condescending conversations toward those civilians and those military personnel and the government workers who dedicated themselves to the service of this country, talking down to them, intimidate, but they are not the enemy. When the real enemy showed up, Saul was nowhere to be found. When the real enemy showed up, this current president turned tail and kept trying to talk noise. And the enemy is still standing there saying, I'm winning this fight. Family, friends, when people start talking about 45 and what he has done, we need to look at 45 and talk about what he has not done. He has not protected the lives of almost 250,000 citizens of this country. And that's a shame before God, because he could have done something as simple as listen to the scientists, something as simple as saying, I'm going to wear a $1 mask and I'm going to order that the states at least tell your citizens to wear the mask, to socially distance, so that in 2 or 3 weeks, we can fight and we can win this virus. I hope, trust, and pray that we support the efforts that are attempted now by the incoming administration to get rid of this virus. You don't have to agree with the incoming administration on everything. Just like David showed up David says, I'm not here to make a name for myself. I'm here to get rid of the virus, Goliath. I'm not searching for fame and fortune. I'm here to get rid of the virus. And I'm here to say, if the only thing this incoming administration is able to accomplish is to get rid of the virus and attack it and fight it, then we can say, well done to our incoming administration. I look forward to you joining me on Sunday morning for our Bible study at 9 o'clock a.m. I also look forward to you participating in our worship at 10 o'clock a.m. Now, I'm going to send out a reminder later today because at 5:30 tomorrow afternoon, I've been asked to participate in a Zoom nationwide conference session with the Colonial Heights Church of Christ, located in Chicago, Illinois, and also a good colleague of mine, Brother Stanley Hubbard. Brother Hubbard preaches for the Kingsley Terrace Church of Christ in Indianapolis, Indiana. But we're going to participate in a forum that is going to address the impact that this Corona-19 is having on family relationships. Uh, and we're going to address this biblically, and we're also going to address this behaviorally. But we hope, trust, and pray that you will join us on tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. For that session. Thank you so much for being a part of our midday devotional. And I look forward to, if not seeing you in the Zoom room tomorrow, I look forward to you joining us on Sunday morning for our Bible study and our worship. God bless you and have a great day.